What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Comically Boston Breakdown episode. And today we are talking about The Last of Us Season 2 finale, Episode 7, titled Convergence. And I was speculating that this episode might end. And I think I guessed it correctly, because this is kind of exactly where Season 2 ended. And, you know, coming off of Episode 6 titled The Price, and it was the flashback episode and Ellie and Joel's 5 years between Season 1 and Season 2, and we got to see the good and the bad, and we got to see their final conversation on the porch, and we got to see everything that happened with Eugene and Ellie returning to the theater at the end of that episode, and that's kind of right where we pick off with this episode. But I loved seeing the dinosaur stuff, the space stuff with her, you know, and that whole memory. Like, it's always so beautiful. And then seeing Joe Pantoliano as Eugene was great, but that conversation on the porch and ending with, like, I hope you do a little better than me, the same thing that Joel's father had said to him, you know, it's absolutely crazy. And I've been loving breaking down this second season. This has been my screensaver for this entire second season. I've had Ellie and the red all on my phone. And I might not even change it. I might just leave this lock screensaver until Season 3 comes out, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later. I mean, I hope they've been filming some of it with Katlin Deever, you know, because it seems like Season 3 is going to be the Abby season, you know what I mean? Before Season 4 gets into some deeper stuff. But we'll talk more about where the future seasons could go and how many there might be towards the end of this episode. But let's get right on into this episode, shall we? We open this episode on radios, and it's the wolves messaging to other wolves. Radio silence, Isaac's orders. So they're all going radio silent because obviously somebody's been listening. But do they know that it's been Ellie and Jesse and Dina listening? Or do they think the Scars are listening? But we pan down from the radio up on like the second level down to like the lobby level where Jesse is helping Dina get the crossbolt arrow out of her leg, and he offers her some booze for the pain, but she denies it, and he kind of like, you know, we get a long look at her because he's like, that's not like Dina to refuse a drink. You know, we saw her in the first episode of this season, she ran up and took his drink right out of his hand. Now she's got an arrow through her leg and she's refusing booze. Why would someone do that? But so she refuses the booze, and then he pulls it out and she screams in pain, and we cut to black for a second before we cut to Jesse standing guard. And Jesse's now standing there like, hey, I got a girl with a bolt in her leg, and I'm standing here waiting for somebody to come knocking at the door, and he's waiting for Ellie to come back. And Ellie knocks on the door, and he's like, what's your horse's name? She's like, Shimmer, open the fucking door! You know, like, it's not time for questions, like, just open the door, it's me. I'm alone. And it was interesting to me that we didn't get the shot of Ellie's bloody hand shaking at the door like we do in the game. It was almost like they didn't want to include her being all bloody and stuff when she was already soaking wet from the rain, you know what I mean? Like the poor actress, Bella Ramsey, when you get soaking wet for an episode, you get wet pay as an actor, you know, like you get extra money for being that wet. And I guess if you have to be that wet and covered in blood, I guess it would be a double pay. So they just were like, alright, just the rain's fine. We don't need to cover her in blood and, you know, do this little shot. I was really hoping for that shot though, because it's such a good shot and I loved it, where she's like, you know, hands still shaking because she's still got all that adrenaline running through her from beating Nora, and she just kind of like shaking and she walks in. But in the game, obviously Dina didn't get shot in the friggin' leg with a crossbolt, so in the show they had to make it just Jesse opening the door for Ellie, and then Ellie walks right by him and goes straight back to the dressing room to find Dina. And we get that scene from the game where we start to see the wear and tear that Ellie's body's been going through. And I don't know, I felt like this scene in the game was earned more, you know? Like, I love that she comes up and kind of pushes her hair behind her ear, and then we get that same shot. And then Dina, you know, in the game, like, stitches her up and, like, takes off her shirt, and we see all the bruises and scars and beating that Ellie's been taking, and Ellie says to her, I don't want to lose you. And I don't know if this is how the conversation goes in the show. I don't remember the I don't want to lose you line, but I know that Ellie tells Dina, I made Nora talk. I thought it would be harder to do, but it wasn't. It was easy. I just kept hurting her. And we find out that Ellie didn't kill her and just left her down in the spores to die, which, you know, you're beaten by a pipe to near death, and then now you're just left to die in the spores. Like, what's worse? Should she have just killed her? We find out that she didn't even get any information out of her other than whale and wheel, and she's like, I don't even know what that could mean. But any of us that are like, oh, whale, wheel? Oh boy, where could this be going? But also the scene in the game, like when we saw the wear and tear on Ellie's body, we felt it like to our core because we were playing as Ellie and we were the one causing this wear and tear on her body. You know what I mean? Like when you get hit by a scar, or you get shot, you know, and you have to bandage yourself up in the game. When you get to this point and you're wear and tear, you know, like I felt like the show could have gone through a little bit more wear and tear for Ellie, because sure, she's been doing stuff and falling and running and jumping and diving and all this type of stuff, but like we haven't seen her get shot or, you know, take a hit and have to bandage herself up or fall, you know, like we haven't really seen much of that. And I feel like the show's version of Ellie, we could use a little bit more of like the game sense of danger, right, and pain, and that she's, you know, in the game it does seem like they're a little superhuman because they can just keep going and going and going and going. But, you know, that's the game. Would it be a little too much for the show? I don't know. But it would feel a little bit more like the game if they had her getting hit and having to bandage up a little bit. I don't know. I feel like that would be a nice little touch maybe they can do in season 3. But then Ellie tells Dina about Salt Lake City, and I have the whole clip of this.
He killed Abby's father. He was a doctor. And Joel shot him in the head to save me.
So that's why they came. Did you know who they were?
But I knew what he did.
Ooh, so Dina figures out, like, so that's why they came. And did you know who they were? And she says, no, but I knew what he did. And Dina just, you know, says, we need to go home. And she, like, turns and rolls away from Ellie, just kind of leaving her sitting there with, like, her bruised back and, like, just still shirtless. And I like that, like, you know, it's a scene between two girls that we had seen, like, a little sex scene earlier in the season from the two of them. But, like, they take off her shirt, and it's not about, like, ooh, her naked body, ooh, her breasts. Like, it's about the wear and tear on her body and the emotional stakes of this scene. It's not about her being naked. You know what I mean? Like, I really love that, you know, it is getting an undressed scene, but it's not sexual, you know, like it's serious. This is a serious scene, and I respect the hell out of it, you know, because they could have made it like, ooh, look at titties, you know, guys would have been like, eh, but like, they didn't need to do that. It's not that kind of show. They don't need, it's not about sex, it's about surviving and being the last of the people to survive. Like, so then the next morning, Ellie asks Jesse for an extra 9mm, and he just throws it to her and doesn't say anything because he's clearly still pissed at her. And then Dina comes limping out, and Jesse's like, you shouldn't be standing on that leg. And she walks over to Ellie and says, stand up, give me your wrist. And she puts out her wrist, she goes, other one. And she ties her little good luck bracelet around her wrist and then barricades the door for them as Jesse and Ellie go out on Seattle Day 3. And they are going to meet Tommy at the rendezvous point, because that's what Jesse was saying that they were supposed to do on the 3rd day. We'll rendezvous here, and they were supposed to be both looking for Ellie. Jesse found them, so now they're just hoping that Tommy's alright. Hopefully he is. But as they're walking, Ellie and Jesse are talking, and she's like, how did you find the theater? And he's like, you know, he tells her how. But then he also kind of guesses that, like, how Dina's pregnant, and she kind of goes, fuck. And then she goes, oh wait, you were guessing? And so now he kind of knows that she is pregnant, but he's also, you know, he figures it out from her not accepting the drink with the crossbow bolt through her leg. But he was still only about 90% sure that she was pregnant until Ellie confirms it here. But she's like, listen, she'll tell you when she's ready. But now we get a pretty crazy line where Jesse's like, Now I'm gonna be a father, and you have us in a fucking war zone. So why don't you help me go get Tommy so we can get us and my kid the fuck out of Seattle? And she just kind of looks and stares at him, and I'm like, oh my god, now I know why they included that line of, I'm gonna be a dad, right? To see the two polar different, you know, ways of thinking, where this is, you know, like he impregnated Dina, so this is his child. But he's not with Dina, so Ellie is like, I'm gonna be the dad, and like, But Jesse says to her, like, I'm gonna be a dad now. I can't die, so we gotta get the fuck out of here. And it's like, oh no, almost if it wasn't a heaping bowl of foreshadowing. Fuck. But then they hear gunfire and they hide, and they see that the former Fedra agent that was like the right-hand man of Isaac comes and takes his scar and like strips him of his clothes and drags him off to be tortured. And he's like a young Scar kid, and he's just like being tortured here by these wolves. And Ellie wants to go help him, but Jesse says, I am not dying out here. This is not our war. And he like talks her into leaving, and he makes a point, but like, you know, Jesse, man, you're just gonna let them go kill that kid? Jesse doesn't know who these people are, so, you know, what does he care? But we then cut over to Sergeant Park, who is, we just saw a couple episodes back, who had to sacrifice her son down in the spores and seal him in because the infection's in the air, and her son's now living down with like the Rat King or something that maybe we'll see next season. But she is talking to Isaac, and we find out that Abby and her friends have gone missing, and she's like, why are you so obsessed with Abby? And he says that you're going to die and be dead by tomorrow. So then who will lead all of these troops? It's supposed to be her. And she looks at him and says, well, Abby and her friends fucked off, so I guess she wasn't. You know, and she kind of like gets all pissed, like, you just think I'm gonna die tomorrow? Like, you don't think I'm as good a fighter as Abby? And we'll learn in season 3 that Abby is formidable and can hold her own quite a bit. But Sergeant Park, you know, she didn't get to be a sergeant for no reason. She sacrificed her own son for the wolves, you know, and he's like, you don't even think of me as like an actual person. I'm just a pawn, and Abby's the only one you actually care about here. Not even all of Abby's friends, just Abby, because he wants Abby to be his new sergeant and the person running these troops when they're all gone, you know what I mean? And maybe that is where things head, and Abby becomes the leader of the wolves. Maybe, for people that don't know the games, maybe. We then cut over to Ellie and Jesse making it to the rendezvous point, and Tommy isn't there yet, and Jesse says he will make it. And here they are again in bad fucking weather. Just the last time they were waiting out bad weather to pass, they got a call that they had to then go find Joel and Dina, and Joel's dead, right? So the last time that Jesse and Ellie were waiting out in a storm and, you know, waiting it out was not a very good last time, you know what I mean? So maybe events repeat themselves. Oh boy. And Jesse talks to Ellie, and he tells her about this girl that he really likes and that he fell for, just like Ellie has fallen for Dina. And she couldn't stay because she didn't want to abandon her family, and Jesse didn't want to abandon Jackson, but he did want to follow them to Mexico. And he's saying all this to say that he was taught to do the right thing, and that Ellie should do the right thing, and the right thing was staying in Jackson with the people that brought you in, and her staying with her family was the right thing. So sometimes you got to do the right thing if it means not doing what you want to do, is what Ellie, you know, Jesse's trying to say. And Ellie's like, oh brother, so you're Saint Jesse of Wyoming and everyone else is a fucking asshole. And then he says, make fun of me all you want, but let me ask you this. If I went with that girl to Mexico, who saves your ass in Seattle? He's got a point. He's got a fair friggin' point. Oh boy. But a radio then goes off, and we hear a sniper is at the marina, and it's not a Scar. And Jesse's like, that's gotta be Tommy. So they go up to the roof to get a better look, and Ellie sees a whale in a wheel, and she puts together the Nora clues, and that Abby is at the aquarium. She wants to go after Abby, and Jesse's like, no, we gotta go to the marina after Tommy. And Ellie's like, he could take care of himself. Come on, if 3 more people voted with you, you'd be coming with me. And he says, I voted no. Oh. interesting time to bring this up, but like, remember that vote, that council community vote a couple episodes back, where we thought for sure that they were outvoted? I think it was like 8-3 or something like that, and we thought for sure that the 3 people that voted yes were Tommy, Jesse, and Maria. So if Jesse voted no, Maria and Tommy voted yes, who was the third person to vote yes? Just another random community member that, you know, believed Ellie's speech? I don't know, that's crazy. But Ellie asks why, and Jesse says, because all you do for your fucking self, and it wasn't best for the community. And Ellie explodes and says, fuck the community! All you do is talk about the fucking community! You hypocrite! You think I'm good and you're bad? You let a kid die today because he wasn't a part of your community. Ooh. Ooh. And she says, my community? You want to know my community? My community was beaten to death in front of me while I was forced to watch. So don't look at me like you're better than me, because you're not, and you would do exactly the same thing if you were in my situation. And Jesse just looks at her and says, I hope you make it. And they split up, and Jesse goes after Tommy at the marina, and Ellie makes her way to the aquarium. And this whole little conversation, though, like they blowing up at each other, had me like, ooh, ooh, like, Jesus, what dialogue. But I have the clip of this.
You don't know that's him.
Yes, we do.
We don't, and even if it is, he's got them pinned down.
For now, they called for backup.
Then he'll pin more of them down. I know him. He would want me to do this. And Jesus Christ, if 3 more people had voted with you, you'd be coming with me.
I voted no.
Why?
Because everything you do for you.
Oh my God.
Ellie, it wasn't in the best interest of the community.
Fuck the community! All you do is talk about the fucking community, you hypocrite! You think you're good and I'm bad? You let a kid die today, Jesse. Which is why he wasn't in your community. Let me tell you about my community. My community was beaten to death in front of me while I was forced to fucking watch. So don't look at me like you're better than me, or like you'd do anything differently if you were in my shoes, because you're not, and you wouldn't.
I really hope you make it.
Oh, and then what a good clip, because like as they're fighting, there's a pause between the fight. You just hear one of Tommy's sniper shots go off in the background, and you know, Jesse just realizes there's no talking Ellie out of this, so he might as well go and help Tommy and try and save his community that he's so passionate about saving, you know what I mean? Like, ooh. But now it's nightfall, and Ellie's making her way to the aquarium in a thunderstorm, and it's pouring rain, and she's about to shoot 2 people on the docks to steal a boat when a bunch of boats start pulling up out of the night sky, and like all of a sudden a light comes on, and we're like, oh, 1 boat's coming to pick up these 2 guys on the dock, and all of a sudden there's 8 boats, and it's like they all just emerge out of the darkness and just one at a time turn on their lights, and it's so sketchy. But Ellie's like, holy shit, who are these guys? And we see that it's Isaac and all of his wolves, and these troops are loading up these 2 guys, and they are heading towards the island. And we'll find out more about this island, and this is where the Scars are staying, and he's heading to the island. So they take off with a bunch of boats, and they turn off their lights in the middle of the night, so it's almost like they're like George Washington crossing the bridge, you know, on Christmas night in a blizzard, you know, like they're crossing the bridge, crossing the river, you know what I mean? Like he's crossing water in a thunderstorm, a rainstorm, in the middle of the night, you know, to cover himself and cover his troops as they head over to this island to cause absolute mayhem. And Ellie then runs over and jumps in the little dinghy and goes to start heading towards the aquarium when a absolutely huge wave knocks her into the water. And we see that she washes up on shore of the island, not on shore of the boat of the aquarium. She washes up way far away. She washes up on shore of the island, where a little Scar child sees her and then runs and grabs her parents, and the Scars come and take Ellie, and they drag her through the woods to one of these fire ceremonies where they're about to hang Ellie, just like Ellie, Jesse, and Dina saw earlier in this season, where they split the guy's guts open and spilled like his intestines all over the ground. And then Ellie, and then Dina got shot in the leg by a crossbolt. So, you know, everyone's like, holy shit, Ellie's about to get hung right here, what the fuck? Luckily for Ellie, the only thing that saves her from being hung in this moment is all of a sudden the village horn starts going off on the island, and they have to go run off and fight Isaac and the wolves, and they say leave her, so they, you know, are about to kill her. He could have just tied her up and then left her hanging. No, they were like, oh, leave her, we have to go figure out what this horn, you know, sounding is about, you know, and then they're gonna have to go fight a whole bunch of wolves. But then Ellie gets back to the boat and then makes it to the aquarium and has to sneak in through the roof, and it's raining, and she has to sneak through an already broken window, and I wonder if we'll see who broke that window before. And it's crazy because there's little Easter eggs, right, like this broken window, and I'm sure there's tons more that they're planting throughout these episodes that we'll see from an entire different point of view when we see Abby's point of view of these 3 days in Seattle in season 3. But so Ellie sneaks in and doesn't have to kill Alice like she does in the game. In the game, she falls through like a heat vent, like you know what I mean, those square vents, and it falls to the ground, and we end up having to kill the one and only dog in the game that you have to kill, and this is Mel's dog, Alice, and poor Alice takes a pretty bad casualty in the game. But in the show, Alice and Shimmer the horse both survive this season 2 of the show, so congrats to the dog and the horse. Ellie then makes it pushes open the door and hears Owen and Mel talking about Abby, and then Ellie comes in and points a gun at them and tries to use the interrogation technique with the map and says, hey, you're gonna point at the map, and then you're gonna point at the map, and the locations better match up. And Owen's like, she's just gonna shoot us anyways, don't tell her anything. And she's like, nope, I'll let you live, please, just like tell me what I want to know about Abby and then you can go. But Owen, you know, has feelings for Abby, at least in the game he does. We're not really sure if that's true or not in the show. Maybe we'll find out next season. But it doesn't go as planned, and in the game it's actually a knife, and she's like, oh no, I think in the game she ends up having to shoot randomly because Owen goes for her gun, and then she pulls out her knife and stabs Owen in the neck and then kills Owen, and then walks over to Mel, and Mel's dying and Mel's pregnant, you know, so it's a real problem. But in the show, Owen reaches for his gun and Ellie just instinctively shoots as fast as possible and shoots right through the center of his neck, which, if you guys know gunshot wounds, that's a pretty thin area of person, so the bullet goes right through him and hits Mel behind him and nicked her neck just good enough that she's gonna bleed out and die. And it actually went through his neck, nicked Mel's neck, and then hit the cabinet behind them, and she could see like the little bullet dent in the cabinet, and everyone's like, oh shit, and Mel starts to freak out and starts to panic because she's like, I have like 30 seconds, I'm gonna bleed out, and she pulls up her jacket and says, you're gonna have to take it out, please. And Ellie's like, oh my god, what the fuck? So this is not a scene from the game, and this absolutely had me like, oh my god, what a crazy sequence to add. And of course this is Craig Mazin's idea. Hey, what if Mel, when she gets shot, instead of just dying, she asks Ellie to take out the baby. Oh god, what a good idea. What a heartbreaking idea though, because now Ellie's starting to panic because she just killed a pregnant woman, and she's thinking about her pregnant friend that almost just got killed by scars, you know what I mean? And she's like, oh my god, I'm here alone, and this poor woman just got shot by accident, and I didn't want to kill this woman, I didn't want to kill a pregnant woman, you know, and like, oh god, poor Ellie then has to just watch as poor Mel dies. But I have a clip of this whole sequence.
Where's Abby?
You gotta be kidding me. Okay, easy. We don't know where she is.
You were just talking about her, so yes, you fucking do. You, bring me that map. You're gonna point to where Abby is. And then you're gonna do it. And it better fucking match.
She's gonna kill us either way.
No, I won't. Because I'm not like you.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Knife? Do you have a knife? I only have 30 seconds. Get the fuck over here, please, please, please. You're gonna take it out. You're gonna get it out. I don't know how to do that. I do. One incision. That's all it is. And then be sure to tie the cord. Fast. Work fast. Okay. How deep? Deeper than you think. Which way? Oh, transverse. Transverse. What? I don't know what that means. You're doing good. You're doing really good. Is it out?
Oh my god, what a sad scene, because Ellie's like genuinely like, fuck, I didn't mean to kill this lady, but she's also like thinking about Dina, because she's like, what if Dina got hit and I had to take the baby out of Dina? And you know, she was panicking and she's like, oh my god, but she had the knife, she was ready to make the incision and do it, and the lady's like telling her what to do, and she's like, very quickly, you have to move quickly, you have to move quickly, and then she's like, is it out? And you can see like the life has already faded out of Mel, and she's like thinking that she's already cut open, this baby's out of her, but it's only been a couple seconds and she's dying too quickly, she's lost too much blood. And honestly, even if the baby did come out of her, it might have been too late anyways, you know. But that is so heartbreaking that Ellie, you know, sitting there like thinking about Dina, but like couldn't save this baby, couldn't save this woman, has now murdered another man and another woman that's pregnant, and these are both of Abby's friends. Like, she didn't even want to kill them, but she did, and she just kind of like pulls, like, just how like you would close somebody's eyelids if they're like, you know, dead with their eyes open, and you see that in scenes all the time when somebody dies and then they close their eyelids for them to kind of be like, rest now, rest in peace. And you know, she kind of pulls the shirt down over the stomach, you know, kind of for like the babies, you know, to kind of like rest easy, the two of you type of thing. Like, oh my god. And then Ellie just sits there crying as Tommy runs in and, you know, comforts her just how like Joel would, you know, grabs her face and then like kind of goes, come on honey, come on, let's go. And oh my god, so heartbreaking moment. I hope your heart's not fully broken, because they're about to do it again. So Jesse and Tommy arrive and bring Ellie back to the theater, and Dina opens the door for them when they arrive back at the theater, and they are like just devastated, and Ellie's so heartbroken and devastated that she can't even look at Dina when she gets back, and Dina like sees it on her face, like, what's the deal with that? Like, you would have been happy to see me any other time. Like, what is your deal right now that you're like devastated? Like, what? So Dina then goes back to sleep in the dressing room, which I'm guessing will pick up with her next season, because this is, I think, the last we see of Dina this episode. But Tommy and Jesse are plotting out their course back to Jackson, and Tommy says, are you good with leaving Abby? And Ellie says, I guess I'll have to. And Tommy walks out and goes to pack the bags out in the lobby. And Ellie says to Jesse, thanks for coming to save me. And Jesse's like, maybe Tommy forced me. And he says, well, did he? And he says, nope. And she's like, because you're a good person? And he says, yeah, but also, if I were out there somewhere lost and in trouble, you would set the world on fire to save me. And she says, I would, and they share a smile, and then they hear a commotion going out on the lobby, and they run to go see what's going on with Tommy, and oh god, oh god. They run out to the lobby, and Jesse gets shot in the head. So, I'm about to be a father, I can't die, bam, shot in the head. You're dead, sorry, bebop boop, peace, Jesse. Same thing happens to him in the game. He gets shot in the face. They literally almost frame for frame, same exact shot for Jesse. And Jesse will never get to know his child. Oh, didn't even see the bullet coming. Literally opens the door and Abby just, BAM! Quick shot to the face. But I have a clip of them running into action in their final conversation between Ellie and Jesse, the two fathers of this new child of Dina's, you know, like, oh, and they kind of make up, right? Like, they had been fighting this whole time. This is kind of like a final, like, hoorah, final moment between the two of them of camaraderie and, like, oh, man. But here's the clip.
Stand up. Hands in the air or I shoot this one too.
Just run, Ellie.
Shut the fuck up!
Stop! Stop!
You. Just let him go. He killed my friends.
No, I did. I was looking for you. I didn't mean to hurt them. I know why you killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. I'm the one that you want. Just let him go.
I let you live, and you wasted it.
Oh my goodness. So Abby, Katlin, fuck, I've been saying Katlin this whole time. Katlin Deever as Abby, and a little bit different from the game. She's wearing her jacket still, where in the game she has given her jacket to another character at this point that we'll meet in season 3, because we didn't meet in this season. And in this shot in the game, Abby is like sleeveless and she's got her big old guns out, and I don't know, they may be just giving up on that aspect of the character for the show, and they just don't need a super beefy jacked version of this character because they just love what Katlin Deever as an actress brought to this role. And also from this shot you can see that she does have a bit of a rope burn around her neck, so we will be getting that scene with Abby getting hung by the Seraphites from the game in season 3 of the show. So just a nice little detail there. But I love how Abby's like, you wasted it. And Abby says to her, you killed my friends. And Ellie says, no, I didn't mean to. I was looking for you. And Abby says, I let you live and you wasted it. And she points a gun at Ellie. And Ellie's like, no, 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 no. And we hear a gunshot as they cut to black. And this is not like for the game. We just see her point, but we don't hear a gunshot, I'm pretty sure, in the game. You know, it's one of those like, oh God, what the hell? Where is this heading now? As we cut over to then Abby. But so that's how it ends with, you know, Abby, and we hear a gunshot and it cuts to black. And then we cut over to Abby as she's waking up, and Manny's waking her up, and she walks out to what has to be the Seattle Seahawks Stadium, and this is the new like FOB, the forward operating base for the Wolves, and it says Seattle Day 1 as we cut to credits. So season 3 will be the Abby story, and we will get the 3 days in Seattle and how different at times but also similar at times they can be. And Craig has already said, Craig Mazin, that he thinks it will take until season 4 to fully flush out the entire part 2 of The Last of Us game. So it looks like we have at least 2 more seasons before we even have to dip into The Last of Us part 3 of the game. So that's very interesting. And I'm guessing season 3 will have a lot of the Abby stuff, but then also maybe tie us in with the Tommy stuff, because we didn't really see any of Gabriel Luna's story other than him just running in, you know, picking up Ellie at the end there, and then getting whatever happened to him by Abby when they run out there. But so I'm hoping we see a little bit of Jesse and Tommy's arrival to Jackson as well, or arrival to Seattle, as well as Abby's 3 stories, or 3 days, and how crazy that 3 days are for Abby as well, because Ellie's hunting down Abby, and they don't realize that they're in a war between the Wolves and the Seraphites. Like, they're just stepping into it, and I'm sure they'll flush out more of the Seraphite story. And then there is kind of like this satisfactory ending to season 3, but then there is kind of this whole another part of the game, you know what I mean? Like, so if season 3's finale might pick up right where the moments of season 2 ended, you know what I mean? So season 3 might end with Ellie and Caitlin, and, you know, Ellie and Abby having their final showdown in the theater. And then season 4 might be the entire, you know, they return to Jackson. You know, this is spoilers for the game people, the show people. You know, I'm sure you don't know what I'm talking about. But, you know, they go back to Jackson and they have to deal with the Rattlers and stuff after when she goes to Santa Monica, right? So I'm thinking season 4 might be Santa Monica and season 3 might be Abby's story. You know what I mean? But when will season 3 be coming? I have no idea. I'm hoping they've shot a lot of this stuff already, but I also saw like this brief little shot of this bridge over the top of 2 different buildings that maybe we'll see that whole sequence from the games in season 3 as well. But I also have this clip that I want to show of the ending of what the Wolves base looks like from Abby's perspective. So they have like a whole settlement there, you know, they have like smokestacks and wind turbines and vehicles pulling through, and you know, they pretty much set up from what was the field, and they have this giant, you know, stadium, a fortress almost to defend, you know, and now they have all their, this is where they put in all their people. Decent idea for base, you know what I mean? And we do actually get to walk around this base a little bit in the game, and it looks pretty much exactly how it looks in the game as it does right here. And we hear dogs barking in the background, so maybe we will see Alice in season 3, but just Alice doesn't have to die by way of Ellie at the aquarium. But interesting that we didn't see some other parts of like Ellie sneaking into the aquarium, and she saw like blood and stuff in the game. She sees like blood on the table, and this is from characters that have to get amputated by Mel, so maybe that will still happen, but Ellie just didn't walk by that stuff. I don't know. There was parts from the game during this sequence that I was like, ooh, the little Easter eggs that we could have had. You know what I mean? Like we could have seen with like Ellie finding Owen's fire flag dog tag in his bag. You know, like little things that like are optional in the game because you can just walk right by them. Or if you're exploring and looking for everything that you can interact with, you can find some interesting details in the game. But you can also just speed run it and run right into the cutscenes, you know what I mean? But this has been a very, very fun season of The Last of Us. Season 2 I really liked. I still think the game is better, but I think it's a damn good television show. And the stuff with Pedro, oh god, the heartbreak at the beginning of the season, the heartbreak of the flashback last episode. And yeah, just I'm very curious though, because now that I think they'll be done with the Joel flashbacks, will people tune in for season 3 that it won't have Pedro Pascal? Like, I'm curious, comment down below your actual genuine thoughts. Will you be tuning in to see the Abby story with just Katlin Deever, or Caitlin Deever? Fuck. Will you be coming to see Katlin Deever play as Abby and see the Wolves story? I mean, I know I will be, because I want to see how they adapt the game, and I love the game that much. But who knows, they could take some liberties and change the game in the show entirely at this point and just want to do something completely, you know, unexpected. I doubt they do that, because the game is really that good that there isn't a whole lot of things that they need to change. But little changes like Craig Mazin making Mel ask her to take the baby out, like making Sam and Henry deaf, you know what I mean? Like there's little things that Craig Mazin has been like, hey, why don't we add this to that sequence? Why don't we do this? And why don't we add that? You know, like, and his little additions to The Last of Us world are freaking phenomenal. So Haley, Neil, Craig, get writing on The Last of Us Season 3 and get writing and brainstorming on The Last of Us Part 3, because as soon as you finish the season 3 of The Last of Us and then you go on to season 4 and you finish that, people will want season 5. And if season 4 comes out and there isn't a part 3 of the game already out or announced, you guys are going to be in trouble, because Last of Us fans are going to be hungry and there's going to be nothing on their plates to feed them. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I really enjoyed the show. Bella Ramsey, Isabella Merced, Young Messino, Gabriel Luna. I think we need more Gale. Catherine O'Hara, we definitely need more Gale. Eugene, Joey Pants, Pedro Pascal. What a cast, what a show. The creators, all the filmmakers, all the people that are the crew that I couldn't name because I don't know your names. You guys rock. I really love it. The game, the show, everything's been awesome. Anybody that's clicked on these videos and watched and if you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for supporting the channel. The best way to continue to support the channel is like this video, like future videos. Subscribe if you haven't already. Commenting below is the best way to support the channel and get these videos out into the algorithm. Share this video with a friend. Make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss future videos and you get the notifications when they come out, and you'll get the notifications when Last of Us Season 3 comes around. Thank you guys so much. Once again, my name's Big Cam, and I will see you beautiful people in a future Comically Boston Breakdown episode. Wow. Another Last of Us season in the books, another Comically Boston breakdown of a television show, another HBO show in the books. Wow, these are a lot of fun and I really enjoy them and I really appreciate all of you. I love you guys. Happy Memorial Day weekend and see you guys in the next one. Peace.